All right, let's see if we can find something in LA. 1.3. 1.5. 1.7. Well, it's expensive to live in LA if you guys don't already know. And basically the prices are like if you want, 1,000 square feet, $1 million. If you want 1,500 square feet, 1.5. If you want 2,000 square feet, $2 million, right? And these are like averages. You can go a little bit higher, a little bit less, but things tend to be higher. However, we're gonna be looking at some housing things today and sharing some thoughts with you guys. And thanks again for joining us. So take a look at this. This is an interesting article, and the headline is Millennials Shut Out of the Housing Market Again. And unfortunately for young people these days, it is tough to own a home. I was looking at these ages here, and this is actually interesting. They're saying the average, or actually I should say median, that'd be middle, the middle age or median age of a person buying a home these days for their primary residence is 53. That is actually really high because if you look back in say early 2000, you guys can see the numbers there. The age was about 39. So we're skewing quite old for people who can essentially buy houses or who are buying houses. Essentially, that's what I should say. One of the things that is also happening as well is the percentage of people who are doing it. So right now, 27% of millennials are homeowners. And if you guys are young, please chime in and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this thing. So they're defining millennial as someone who was born between 1981 and 1996. So if you're curious, I'm pushing 50, so I'm much older than that. So I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm between 65 and 80. We're Gen X. And so if you're in Gen X, 60% of you own a home. Baby boomers, it's closer to like the 70s, and then silent generation. The old people is actually lower than that. It's more like 65, something like that, percentage that are owning homes. So the baby boom generation essentially is the best off as of now in terms of home ownership. And millennials actually are trailing their cohorts, meaning that when other generations were young, there was more like 40% of younger people were owning homes, but right now I said it's 27%. More young people these days are living at home because you guys probably guessed it, right? Housing prices cost too much, and also too, rents have been elevated for a long time. It's just expensive out there, and also too that I think the job market's going to tighten up, especially for young people. So as more and more people are essentially living at home, there are less renters on the market. And you can see here, actually, rents have been going down, and there's been a couple reasons for this. So one is just that food and energy costs are higher, so people, are choosing to live with roommates, choosing to live with family, meaning that there are less people, again, looking out for rentals. Also, too, that people just don't have money, right? If you're unemployed, you're just like, I can't afford to pay X amount of money, and so landlords can't find renters as much as they could before, and so rents essentially coming down. It's a free market. However, they're not completely crashed in terms of the levels of rent, because if you take a look at this is a chart of a year over year, meaning like how much did rent change, each year. And in 2021, rents, the median price of rents went up 17.6%, which is quite a lot. Even in 2022, we're still elevated still. You can see this year to date up 4.7%. So even though rents have been coming down the last few months, it is still high, and rents have been going up, right? We can take a look at another chart. You can take a look at this. This actually shows you sort of more visually that rents go up and down, and you can actually see it is also seasonal. So towards the end of the year, rents start to come down a little bit, mostly because you're trying to find people to fill your vacancies, say during the winter and holiday season. So rents start to come down. So, however, if you look at the chart though, is that rents have come down more this year and this season than they have in the prior years. And we just had those massive spikes in 2021, as you can see. So I know this is a really funky chart, but basically what this is showing you, blue is essentially prices of rents are cooling, red is prices are increasing, and then the top of the chart are your top biggest cities, essentially, with top 100 cities is what this is. And then the 100 would be like Birmingham, Alabama. And then number one is New York City in terms of population. And basically, you see a lot of blue coming in, meaning that rents are going down. Now, where exactly are the rentals moving? This is some more particular cities. And I'd love to hear for which market you guys are in. You guys can share. But so first, we'll look at where is rent growing? So it's actually the Midwest. Cincinnati, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus. This is over the last 6 months, rents are increasing. And then in terms of where did rents increase the last couple of years? So the bubbles were Las Vegas, San Diego, Orlando. You guys see here, Riverside. In terms of like, they increased a lot, right? And if you look at like a Vegas or even like a Tampa, I mean, I remember hearing this a lot, and people were moving down to Florida during the pandemic. So in 2020, in Tampa, like your rents went up 39%, which is kind of crazy. Also, too, we'll take a look at where rents are decreasing. So you guys can look at the chart here. So over the past 6 months, Vegas and Riverside, New Orleans, Providence. Actually, I went to school in Providence. Rents are decreasing in these places, and one of the things that I think is interesting is we had major increases. So go back to the other chart here. So like the last couple of years, the rent in Vegas increased by say 30%. You can see it right here. And then the last 12 months, the rent decreased in Vegas by 3%. So it's still elevated than it was before, right? That is a delta of like 27%. So even though, yes, things are decreasing and people say, hey, the housing market is cooling, the rental market is cooling, it is still at elevated areas. One thing that is also going on is as interest rates go up, right, what can we expect for home prices, especially for those of you guys that are in the market? There was interesting back in June, Federal Chair Jerome Powell was talking about like a reset in the housing market. We're going to read a quote. This is back from June. So he's saying, in June, Federal Chair Jerome Powell told reporters that overheated housing market, which saw home prices rise over 40%, which I'm sure you guys know is crazy, in just over 2 years, needed a reset, and higher mortgage rates, he said, would slowly bring balance back to the market. So this is what he said, a few months ago. We saw home prices move up very, very strongly for the last couple of years. So that changes now. I'd say if you're a home buyer, somebody, or a young person looking to buy a home, you need a bit of a reset. We need to get back to a place where supply and demand are back together. So again, they were talking about this before when they started raising interest rates. They're still raising interest rates. The talk is in December, maybe we're going to raise another 0.5%. So this is something that, yes, home prices, this is another chart. Home prices are cooling, right? So this is what's going on, is right. You're raising the cost to borrow money. So we do expect prices to come down, but by how much? And this is sort of what we're all tracking. So remember, Federal Chair Jerome Powell was like, prices went up 40%. We need a reset. This chart actually shows you that really interesting and clearly. Now they're using 41%, but it's roughly the same. Basically, the blue, it represents the gains that the housing market has made. So like if you bought a home, you're up, 41%. However, the red, it represents how much the prices have come down. So roughly, 3%. So, how far could it go back? Would it go back all the way to where it was before, say in 2020, is anyone's guess. We'll look at some more numbers, but I was thinking this chart really shows sort of like how much we've gone up and how much have we've sort of given back in terms of the housing market. And love to hear you guys' thoughts on all of these things because it largely depends on which market you're in. Now, this is an interesting comparison comparing October 21 to October 22. And there's a couple things that really stand out to me. So one is, I was looking at this, is the median days on the market, right? How long does it take to sell a home? So back in October 21, it was 12 days. Now we're in October 2022, 19 days. So add another week on there. Prices are still elevated. You guys can see this. But the other one is the average sale to ask price ratio. So back, in 21, people were actually paying more than, what the listing price was. I'm sure you guys heard about these things where like you put in a bid and you're like, everyone's bidding above listing. So, you're in like a crazy market when that's happening. This is another chart showing that as well. That's starting to come down, right? The idea that you have to like bid more than what the asking price is. I think we may go back to a world to where like, when it's essentially a buyer's market where you can actually bid lower and the seller is just happy to get rid of it because they might be over leveraged. And that's a thing that I warn you guys about several times. And I get it, if you watch popular YouTube channels, they basically say, hey, borrow as much money as you can and buy as many houses as you can because you're going to be able to rent it out and make a lot of money. Maybe not necessarily, right? It's hard to rent out something when people don't have jobs, and it's hard to rent out or sell something when interest rates are so high. This is sort of the world that we live in. And so this is an interesting chart as well. This is sort of saying where markets are going in terms of like, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? The blue are the seller's markets and the yellow are the buyer's market. You can take a look at it yourself. Now, it doesn't mean that it's cheap, right, necessarily. Like, so for example, they're saying Nashville, Tennessee is a buyer's market. However, Nashville is still very expensive. Same with San Francisco. Boise, Idaho was like a really big bubbly city. Like everyone was moving to Coeur d'Alene and those kind of things. So don't think this necessarily means that they're cheap there. It just means that the prices are going more towards the buyer's favor. Whereas in the blue, the prices are more going towards the seller's fair. So I'd love to hear if you guys agree or disagree with this chart. I'm looking at this myself, and like I was saying, places like Nashville are still elevated. I think Austin's still expensive as well, but prices are probably coming down. And I think the basic idea, like I said, is sort of which way the market is going. So this is probably the most important chart that we're looking at today, actually. And the basic gist of it is, as interest rates go up on your home, you're going to pay more money as a total cost. But this graphically is just good to see it and conceptualize in your mind. So on a 30-year loan, right, on a mortgage, if you paid $450,000 for the house, and you got in 2021 at a rate of 3%, you're going to end up paying $545,000 is the total cost, right? The thing is, though, if you look at the chart, July 2022, interest rates were at 5.3, so now you're paying 720 for the total cost. And then now in November of 2022, interest rates basically more than doubled. You're paying $952,000, nearly $1 million for your home. So you're getting killed on interest, and this is why I've been mentioning you guys over and over again. Especially if you're in variable interest, like your credit cards, anything that is variable, you got to be paying that stuff off because interest rates are going to keep going up, and interest is not cool to pay, not cool. One of the things that I mentioned over and over again is, in a bubbly market when interest rates are low, you'll see all of these crazy people out there saying, oh yeah, go buy 10 houses and rent them all out, and you're going to be great, over leveraged to the hilt. And it's not a great idea. It's not. You're overcommitting yourself, and this is sort of why you see, I'm keeping it real, a lot of stressed out people on YouTube that all about pumping real estate, and now they're underwater and really in trouble because of interest rates going up. And you can see this just illustrates the total cost of owning a home, especially if you're way over leveraged. We may see a lot of foreclosure. There is a possibility of that, and then housing prices will come down more. Now, no one knows exactly where housing is going to go. I just give you guys projections of different people. So this one is Moody's. They're saying, you may see the market crash in this housing 25 to 30% is sort of what they're saying. Morgan Stanley is also slashing prices. Now they give you a couple cases, which we're just going to look at the bear case and a bull case. But obviously it depends where you are. If you're looking to buy, you want the housing market to crash, right? Of course. And if you're looking to sell, you want it to stay elevated. So let's just read some of their details. So here's a quote from them. In a bull case, the lock-in effect keeps inventories at the lows we have experienced in the past year, right? So it's all about inventory and mortgage rates. I'm sure you guys understand this. At the same time, lower mortgage rates incentivize more purchase demand than we are currently expecting, as households view any rally as a potential temporary reprieve and move to take advantage before the next move higher. So, basically, people watch the interest rates, right? And if they ever think it's going to go down, then they're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to buy now. I'm going to lock in that rate. And as rates go, keep going up, people are kind of nervous. So that's what they're looking at. They're looking at inventory, right? Are there houses available on the market, and also to where interest rates. And they're essentially saying in a bull case scenario, they expect home prices to go down 10% through 2022. I think everyone expects prices to go down. So even in a best case scenario, depends on what you consider best case, they expect to go down. Now, this is their bear case, and we'll read through it here. They say home prices could crash 20%. And if a deep recession manifests, Morgan Stanley predicts U.S. home prices could crash 20% from peak to trough, from the top to the bottom, right? Including up to an 8% home price decline in 2023. Quote, a common scenario that we are presented with when discussing the bear case for home prices is a longer and deeper recession leading to a material increase in unemployment. Now, one of the things that we're talking about unemployment, guys, I have been telling you, I think 5% is probably likely. It could go as high as 10% to unemployment. I don't know if it's going to go that high, but I don't know. But I would say 5% is a reasonable, likely, because that's essentially where healthy unemployment is. I think we're currently at 3.7%. So more people are going to lose their jobs, and most likely home prices will come down, and as well as interest rates are going up. So the housing market will cool. Here's what they say. This is Morgan Stanley. What we think would be more likely cause of a home price bear case would be an intersection of weaker than expected demand with a larger increase in inventories than currently forecast. So it's all about demand, right? Are people wanting to buy homes? It's all about mortgage rates, right? Where are the rates at? Do people think it's worth it, et cetera? And also to where are inventories? Are we even building these things? One of the things I think is important to mention as well, and I mentioned it several times, regarding the, many people on YouTube are always pumping up, essentially get rich quick real estate schemes. It's interesting. So if you're in that camp, Airbnb's jumping on board, and they're saying that they're going to try to make it easier for people to rent out apartments on their platform. I just saw this today. I thought it was kind of interesting. So we'll see if that ends up moving the markets. As you guys already looked at earlier today, rental prices are going down, but I think the main thing is, like, even if rental prices are going down, if you don't have a job, it's still too expensive. And if you're looking to rent in like a San Francisco or LA, I was always looking at these kind of places. It's really elevated in those areas. And I also want to show you this chart one more time because I think it's so important to understand sort of how interest rates affect your total cost of owning a home. And also too, I show you this chart because I know there are a lot of people out there, be it like your Graham Steffens or your Meet Kevins, that are like, hey guys, buy 3 houses. You can rent them out really, really easy, and you can be, a slumlord just like me. The problem is in a rising interest rate environment, right? You're taking a lot more debt and a lot more risk, and also too overcommitting yourself, over leveraging yourself, and putting yourself at risk when you do those kind of things. And this is why those guys are always stressing out, because essentially in a market where it starts to cool off, where you can't find renters that easily, and suddenly you own like 5 houses and no one to rent, you're in deep waters. You got to be really careful out there. And so this is why I just want you to be aware that rates have gone up quite a bit. Just from a year ago, it's like doubled, and that means the cost of like owning that home over time is effectively doubled, and it's just really crazy. So be very, very cognizant of where you are in your job situation. That's why I say in every one of these videos, right now the best way to secure success is have the job skills that companies need, organizations need, that pay you enough money to buy these kind of houses if you are. But I do expect housing prices to go down. It seems all the projections go that way, and we know interest rates are going up, and unemployment is probably going to go up as well. So I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Which housing market are you in? Are you seeing a cooling in prices? What about rent markets? Are you looking to rent? Or are you saying, you know what, screw it, I'm just living at home with the parents, I'm going to save money, it is not worth it, and that's the easiest way to go. So thanks again for watching, everyone. I want to hear your thoughts, and I'll catch you next video.